Well, it looks like, Perkins, we have a rather sticky situation on our hands. As of 0900 hours, the enemy has started to advance.
Wait, you don't mean lesbians?
No, Perkins. The enemy's soldiers, the ones we've been fighting for the last 6 months.
Right. Well, have we tried setting the lesbians on them?
Why would we do that?
Wait, did I say lesbians? I'm sorry, I meant guns. Have we tried firing guns?
Yes, of course, Perkins. What do you think we've been doing all morning?
Messing around with lesbians?
Perkins, you have a one-track mind. You really do.
I can't think why. I just had it waxed last week.
What I am trying to tell you is the enemy is advancing despite the guns and despite that damn bagpipe music I was playing incessantly last week.
Do lesbians not like bagpipe music then, Beowulf?
I have no idea, Perkins. Luckily it doesn't matter as we're not fighting lesbians.
More's the pity, really. We could just defeat them by releasing more lesbians. Like that time in the Congo.
Those weren't lesbians, Perkins. Those were tribeswomen.
Funny, looked like lesbians to me.
Hello, General. Captain Perkins.
Look out, Gerald, old horse. One of those dashed lesbians have escaped.
Shut up, Perkins. Clearly it's just Tommy from the front with some news.
But rather he was here from the front with some lesbians.
It's bad, sir. Truly bad. Cork aborted. Spindly Eric got a splinter. Toddy went for a Burton. Biggles has gone all Swiss. Betty's badly wounded and Carp's come a cropper in the nest. Oh, dear. This is worse than I thought. Time to go to Plan B, I think. Perkins?
Yes, boss?
Unleash the lesbians.
I thought you'd never ask.
That was a clip from upcoming military epic The Explosive War, starring Mary Pigglethorpe Gumption as Gerald, Ernest Old in the Face as Perkins, Carlos the Jackal as Tommy, and 1700 lesbians. And now on Radio Flange Goblet, it's everyone's favourite excuse for running up to a stranger in a shopping mall and bellowing loudly in their face about the sharp increase in the price of rubber, the after-movie diner, which this week comes from an old hedge out the back of Beppy Limsworth's Barry Archie Tavern and Metallurgy School in Klingon up the Wain, where for several years now they've had a ritual where every 13th day in months ending in R, they erect a large bronze effigy of Edward Heath, former Prime Minister of Great Britain and owner of 75% of the world's neck fat back then, complete with elaborate fountain in which the townsfolk bathe a pig.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you're listening to the After Movie Diner podcast. Now drop and give me 20.
Hello, welcome, good morning, good day, good lunchtime, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to the After Movie Diner, whoever you are, however you are, and wherever you are. Make sure you shuffle off those corduroy pants, relax, put on a large velvet hat, and drift off to the dulcet tones of my voice as I introduce this, an absolutely wonderful, splendid, super special, crammed, packed, jam-packed, absolutely fit to bursting episode of the After Movie Diner. If you want content, my goodness have we got content. We're nothing if not full of content. That doesn't mean you're going to be content, but it does mean we have massive amounts of content. And if you want a podcast that gives you more content than almost any other show on the internet waves or airwaves or whatever you want to call it, then really we are the show. If you want comedy, film, music, and all that good stuff, then, well, you come right here and you don't go anywhere else. Well, you go to some places. There's some other good shows. I would suggest go to many different shows. I would suggest go and listen to the Schlock Treatment episode because I recently guested on it. Or what about Bloodbaths and Boomsticks, because I've guested on that quite a bit as well. Why don't you go check out Drunk on VHS? I'm frequently a guest on that show. So there's lots of other great shows out there, of course, to enjoy. But when you want proper content, you'll come back right here. And we really have dug deep today to find you some absolutely fantastic content like you've never heard before. Well, of course you've never heard it before because it's brand new. We've just done it last week. So you can't have heard it before. It's going to be right here. You're about to hear it. But before that, one thing I wanted to say is, as we have so much content, and it is absolutely fantastic, if I told you just how much is in this show, because if I haven't, I'm not doing a service, because there really is more in this show than we've ever had in any other show ever. Seriously, maybe, probably not. But anyway, one thing I wanted to say is that because we're bringing you content every week, and we are working really hard to do so. However, life gets in the way, and things are going on at the moment, and I'm having to move and trying to find a job, and there's lots of stuff going on that's sort of painful and stressful and things like that. So what we're asking of the After Movie Diner listeners, in order to kind of help me continue to make the show as content-filled and as wonderful as it currently is, and will continue to be whether you do this or not, but to help me, if you're feeling generous, why not go over to our website and chuck us a few shekels by clicking the donate button that's right there on the right-hand side of the website, aftermoviediner.com. Go donate some money. If you don't want to do that, if you find that's a bit crass, if you think, I don't want to just give you money, who are you? I don't know who you are. Why would I do that? Well, if you don't want to do that, you want to get something for your money, why don't you go over to www.cafepress.com/aftermoviediner, and why don't you buy a t-shirt or a mug? Perhaps you want a cell phone cover or a mouse pad or whatever you want. Why don't you go do that? Okay, I hear you cry. That's more money. You're saying, why? I don't have any money. I'm poor too. I'm moving. I don't have a job. You know what I mean? You might have a dilemma. You might be living out on the street. How you're listening to this podcast or how you've downloaded it, it's not for me to judge. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have any money, there's a third option. There is a third option. What you can do is you can go to our website, aftermoviediner.com, or any of the subsidiary websites like amdpodcast.blogspot.com or aftermoviediner.blogspot.com, and next time you're shopping on Amazon, just click through our banner ads. Any of our Amazon banner ads, you click through there and buy something on Amazon. It doesn't cost you anymore, and they throw us a few shekels. So lots of ways to support the After Movie Diner, and we would urge, if you possibly could, find it in your heart to do so. That would be absolutely wonderful. We are trying to set up something on a Patreon website, whereby if you feel so inclined, you can kind of donate weekly in small amounts. But it's not required. The content will continue to be free. I will continue to put out the show, and there is absolutely no obligation. I'm simply just asking because of the situation we currently find ourselves in. Also, if you notice, not next week, but sort of after next week, or possibly at the end of February, beginning of March, if there's a slight break, don't worry, we will be back. We will be back. So, I was telling you all about the content that we've got on this show and just how content-rich it actually is. Well, you wouldn't believe it, but coming up later on the show, we have an interview with none other than Hollywood legend, director, cinematographer, writer, producer, musician, all sorts of things, none other than Mr. Peter Hyams, who has directed, among other things, 2010, Sudden Death, End of Days, all sorts of films. And we're going to be getting into all those, as well as his brand new feature film starring none other than Jean Claude Van Damme, Enemies Closer. But before that, I would like to introduce onto the show, you'll know them from episode 32, way back in the day, in fact 2 years ago, we talk about this on the show, the wonderful guys from Fatal Pictures. That's right, we have Richard and Zach here from Fatal Pictures, who are going to talk to us all about their new short film, Heir, and also going to fill us in about what's been happening with their last two short films that they've been doing, and basically just going to have a good old chin wag for the next few minutes. So please do, as I said, relax, settle back, and listen to this, a fantastic interview with the guys from Fatal Pictures.
How's it going?
Oh, hey. Good, thanks. Hey, Richard, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good, sir. Very good. Nice to have you on the show for the first time. Obviously, Zach was... I was looking it up. Zach was back on episode 32, which was back in March of 2012. So it's 2 years ago now.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be on. I've been looking forward to this.
No, it's awesome, guys. I mean, we loved the first couple of shorts that we got to see. And obviously, we'll be big supporters of Heir as it comes out. So, okay then, guys, as I said, it's been since episode 32 since we last talked about your films, which were Worm and Familiar. So why don't you just give us a little bit of information? How are they doing? What's been going on with them in the last 2 years?
Worm and Familiar are both doing very well. They've both played the film festival circuit internationally. They've both won a handful of awards. They've both accumulated quite a few positive reviews. Familiar, as far as Familiar goes, that can be seen actually on FearNet. FearNet acquired the rights to play Familiar for 3 years on their website. They have on demand through satellite, and they also have a television channel as well, also on satellite, and I believe that's across the states. So here in Canada, we're not fortunate enough to be able to get the channel, but everyone in Canada or outside Canada, or excuse me, outside the states can go to fearnet.com and just search for the short film Familiar. And it's also a staff pick actually over there right now.
Oh, that's fantastic, guys. That's fantastic. And both shorts, of course, star Robert Nolan. The last couple, we were very taken, I think, me and Nick, who last reviewed the films with Robert's performance. And in fact, I think I mentioned on Facebook, I was just watching Tiger Claws from back in the 90s with Cynthia Rothrock the other day, and Robert shows up in that. Which was incredible. He plays a character called Roberts. He's this kind of scuzzy police guy. And I mean, according to IMDb, he then doesn't do anything in films again until like 2006. So it was 15 years ago that he, 15 years prior to 2006, it was 1991, where he plays this little sleazy police guy who gets it wrong and tries to arrest the hero. And his name's Roberts, and he's in there for quite a bit. He has he gets pushed into the water and has a whole stunt, and it was quite funny actually.
I haven't seen that film, but I need to track that down now. I wasn't even aware of this film.
Yeah, Tiger Claws. I mean, I don't know if IMDb is missing some stuff because, obviously IMDb wasn't around in the 90s, and obviously with these independent guys, very often they don't have their full filmography. But it just says that he did Tiger Claws in 1991 and then nothing again till 2006. So I thought I'd bring it up anyway in case you wanted to mention it to Robert that I had seen.
Yeah, definitely we will.
Because he was very good in it. And so they're doing really well. You've got them on FearNet. And
Familiar's on FearNet. Worm is actually Worm can be seen again also in the States on a 24-hour uncut genre channel called American Horrors by a gentleman named Hart Fisher. Runs that company based out of Los Angeles.
Nice. Okay. And do you have a place online where people can find out more information about those films? Do you have a website you want to mention?
Yes, of course. Fatalpictures.com, as well as we're on Twitter at Fatal Pictures. We're on Facebook, of course. Fatal Pictures has a page on Facebook, as well as all of our films, Consumption, Worm, Familiar, and as well as Heir, our next up-and-coming short film, which also stars the wonderful Robert Nolan, as well as a great horror actor, the hardest working man in horror, Bill Oberst Jr.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent. Oh, well, we're going to be looking forward to that. And I want to move on to that in just a minute, guys, to talk about that. But is there any more upcoming things that are going to be being done with the shorts, or are they just, obviously, he's got another year on FearNet for Familiar?
Familiar is going to be, still with FearNet for a couple years. Okay. But Rich can let you know about the DVD trilogy we were going to be thinking about.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, Rich, tell us about that. What are you planning on with that?
So one of the perks that we have on the Heir Kickstarter right now is it's this thing called the Box Cutter Trilogy. And the Box Cutter Trilogy is sort of a term I've come up with. It relates to, I guess, the fact that each of the films, Worm, Familiar, and Heir, feature a box cutter, Robert Nolan, and each of them are thematically similar. They each kind of deal with the idea of hidden desires, and each of these films sort of cuts through the facade, the surface, and down into the soul of our protagonist. So the idea of a box cutter cutting through and allowing you to get at what's inside. So that's kind of the little term that I've coined for this trilogy. And what we're going to be doing is hopefully the Heir Kickstarter is successful and we make the film. We're going to package Worm, Familiar, and Heir into one nice set, and I'm going to get some custom art done that incorporates things from each of the film into one image. So there will be a Box Cutter Trilogy poster that kind of serves as the main artwork for that box set. I'm going to be writing a little bit of liner notes, and it's just going to be a nice mastered collection of our short films, and it'll be a perfect way to sort of say goodbye to our short filmmaking and a nice memento that we can hand out to everybody we've ever worked with, and anybody who wants to help support Heir can purchase that right now. They can pre-order it, I guess, on the Kickstarter.
That's excellent. Yes, that's a good segue to move over from. I just wanted to check in, obviously, with the previous stuff you've done, and then move over to the new film Heir. And where is it at this stage? You've got the script. Do you have any financing in place, or is it going to be completely through the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, no, we're basically relying on Kickstarter with this one. We've been self-financing our short films for years. It's been a pleasure. I mean, we love investing in ourselves. Zach laughs. It's been hard, but I always say this, that if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why should anybody else?
Right.
So me and Zach have always been the first ones to put up money for our films.
Yeah,
and we've tried to go, Canada's a great country for grants. The government likes to support the arts. They like to help artists. That they don't support us. So what we have to do is make our own films, because if we just sat around waiting for other people to help us, we wouldn't have warm, familiar, and consumption. The type of movies we really want to give to the world. Yes. Yeah, they don't really facilitate our vision. So if they're not going to help us, if the funding agencies don't help us, we're going to have to do it ourselves, and that's what we've been doing, and we're happy to do it. So the only difference with Heir is we wanted to try and utilize Kickstarter. It's there. It's for artists. It's for people that are passionate and think they have something to offer. So we want to take advantage. We think we have great perks, a great project. Our cast is strong, our crew is strong, and we have a track record. Anybody who goes and looks at our campaign page is going to see that we've done great things with our previous shorts, and the same thing is going to happen with Heir. We really want people to see that this is a project worth backing. And I'm sure lots of projects that are on Kickstarter are worth backing. I know for a fact that if people help support this one, they'll be proud for they were a part of it. So that's basically the approach with Heir. We feel like we've been doing it ourselves. Let's see if we can get some help from everybody else. And it's been going great so far. We're halfway to our goal of $17,000. We've already raised about $8,500, so we're doing pretty good so far. It's pretty exciting to be able to talk to your fan base and people who like your work and your art and what you're all about, people who contribute to your next project, to have the confidence in the project. It's nice to be able to interact and talk with them and be able to give them perks, and we have great incentives for them contributing to this project, like props from previous movies of ours. We're going to have these actors like Bill O'Burst, Robert Nolan sign a piece of wardrobe, potentially an Heir, to give you. We have a lot of filmmaker-friendly perks, as well as we have a phenomenal cinematographer, Michael Yari Davidson, who shot the gorgeous Familiar for us and a lot of other projects. You can check out his IMDb. He's on our campaign page. We got the amazing Butcher Shop, who's done our special effects in all of our movies, actually, to date, back all the way to Consumption. Me and Richard worked with Ryan Lawaji from the Butcher Shop. And we just co-producers as well, Red Sneakers. Yeah, of course, our co-producers. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, these guys, Mark Roussel and Ron Bosch, they make some of the best short films we've ever seen, and they've got one coming out this year called The Last Halloween that's going to make a lot of waves on the festival circuit. So we have a whole great cast and crew helping us make this thing. And the only thing is, this time we're asking for, the genre community, film lovers, to help out and help us get it made. Yeah, because we financially couldn't do this movie without the people's support. And so far, we're roughly about 50% of our budget, and it feels really great.
Well, congratulations, guys. And how much longer is the campaign running?
For another 31 days.
Oh, great. Okay, so you're well on track then. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Congratulations. And we're big supporters.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Here at the show. We loved Worm and Familiar, and we'll be contributing as well. It's no, I mean, I can tell the listeners, obviously I've got more listeners now than when you were on the show back on the 32nd episode, but I would urge them to go back, listen to that episode, listen to what we said about the films. But just to reiterate, they are really great looking films, great active films, great put together, some really nice genre tropes in there, some wonderful effects and things. And definitely worth donating to this new one. Once you've either seen those other ones or heard what we have to say about them, definitely worth donating. I know these guys won't let you down. So why don't you let the listeners know just a little bit, like, what's Heir about? What can they expect? Obviously, don't give away any twists, but what can they expect from Heir?
Okay, so I guess the best way to describe Heir is it's a horror film with dramatic elements. and it's going to feature a lot of great practical special effects, something that we're very proud of. We really back the practical special effects, and Heir's going to have that in spades. The elevator pitch, the best way to describe the plot is this. Everybody says that people that abuse children are monsters. Well, what if they actually were? And that's kind of what Heir is about. It sort of explores the idea of there being a hereditary gene that you can pass on from father to son, from uncle to nephew, and Heir sort of delves into what creates these monsters that abuse children and how can we confront it and stop it. And it also takes place during this road trip between a father and son, and it's a road trip, it's a road trip from hell, basically, and there's a lot of twists and turns in there that I don't want to get into because I think a lot of what the film has to offer is it comes in the twists, comes in the surprises. But what I can say is that it's going to be shocking, it's going to be disturbing, but it's also, I think it's heartbreaking, and at the end of the day, it has some redemption. It's the darkest thing I've ever written. It's definitely featuring some of the most taboo things. It's actually a story that I really was hesitant to tell. I didn't know if I wanted to make it because I just think it starts from such a dark place right from the beginning that I was afraid people wouldn't be able to tune into it. They wouldn't be able to sympathize with the characters. But then I kind of found a way to sort of bring some humanity into it. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring this thing that starts very dark to a light place, to a redemptive place where you can kind of glean some hope and maybe understand that true evil doesn't exist. There's just these different shades. It's a cliche thing, but I don't believe in absolute evil. I just believe that there are hurt, damaged people out there, and they arrive the way they arrive through the places they arrive through a variety of things, be it nurture, nature, and Heir is something that explores that idea of how do we get to these places, these dark places that we arrive at, and what can we do to sort of stop it before it gets any worse. And, we're very excited. Bringing Robert Nolan and Bill Oberst Jr. together for the first time is going to be sparks because they're two of the hardest working guys in independent horror, in independent film in general. They're popping up everywhere, and I think when they come together, it's going to be special. So that's probably the best way I can describe it without giving too many plot details away.
With the other two films with Worm and Familiar, that they were obviously short films. What kind of length are you going to be looking at for this one?
With Heir, we've learned quite a few things, making consumption, Worm and Familiar, which all of them they all run 20 minutes or longer. And as much as we enjoy that amount of time to tell our stories, and I think that's what the audience appreciates about our films. When people do get to see our films at festivals where they're programmed, I think they appreciate the time to be immersed in a story and to kind of get character development and to actually have time for a plot to unfold. With Heir, we're doing something a little bit different. We kind of want to maximize our efforts with this film, and we want to make it as accessible as possible to all festivals. We want to try to take our shot at some of the top-tier festivals, and one of the ways to do that is to make a shorter short. So with Heir, we're probably aiming to clock in between the 9 and 11-minute mark at most. But the beauty about that is the storytelling, I've gotten down to a point where I know I can tell the story I want to tell, and I don't need to compromise on character or plot. It's just going to be a more visual, stripped-down storytelling style, and I'm actually excited to do that. We're not going to be incorporating any of the voiceover techniques that you find in Worm and Familiar. This is a much more visual story. It's almost like a silent film in certain parts, where the story is told through subtlety and through glances and through composition of camera, as opposed to some of the more the storytelling in Worm and Familiar were a little bit different, where I was able to use the voiceover technique and I was able to dig into the audience's mind with certain tools that I'm not using those tools this time around. I want to try something different. So with Heir, maybe, like I said, 9 to 11 minutes, but I'm excited to try this. I'm excited to try to do an actual short film, whereas we've been doing things that have, even though we enjoy doing it and we feel like it tells a story we want to tell, it's kept us out of certain festivals. It's kept certain people from watching the films because they just don't have 30 minutes to watch a short film. Whereas, hey, maybe if it's 5 minutes, we can program this. I can throw this on. I can check it out. 30 minutes is a bit more of an investment in time, and I can understand why some people maybe don't give it the time of day. The beauty is after they sit down and watch the film, they always appreciate it. But the trick is to get them to watch a 30-minute short film, which, from what I've heard, is usually an excruciating experience for most people, because 30-minute short films are usually only 30 minutes because the filmmaker didn't know what they were doing. our short films have been 20 to 30 minutes because I've wanted to tell that much story. This time, it's the story, the scope isn't quite as big, but the other things are larger. I feel the impact is going to be larger. It's going to be more devastating. It's going to be more visual. So it's just a different type of short, but it's still very much Fatal Pictures in what we do.
Excellent. No, I was going to say your previous films, although obviously 20 to 30 minutes is it is long for a short, they don't feel long. And in fact, when they finish, you don't want them to finish, even though the story has come to a satisfying conclusion.
That's the greatest compliment anybody could ever tell us. And every time we hear that, we're ecstatic.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of stands out from those two films is the voiceover. But I take it from what you're saying that Heir doesn't have a similar thing.
No, Heir doesn't use the voiceover technique. It's a more visual storytelling, but that's okay. I mean, the voiceover technique will be coming back strong when we do the Worm feature film. And people will get a chance to. You want the voiceover? Here it comes, and it's coming with a vengeance. But we wanted to try to change things up and let people know that there's more to us than just the voiceover, which I think we do well, and we do it in a way that isn't expositional. It's not a cheat. Our voiceovers actually service something. They actually act as characters. They're not telling the audience anything that they can't see on the screen.
Right.
Our voiceovers always serve as characters, especially in Familiar. Familiar is essentially a deconstruction of what is a voiceover. What is that voice?
Right.
So, but with Heir, something different, something more visual. We want to show people that we have other muscles that we want to flex as well.
Sure, of course. No, I didn't mean it as a negative. In fact, I liked the trope in both the films, and was just wondering whether that was being continued, because it was a nice. It was just like you say, you do it very well. So it was just one. It was just interesting.
Oh no, I honestly, I actually hear a lot of the times people saying negative things about voiceovers and this and that. And anytime I hear somebody actually saying they appreciate it, I'm always happy, because. I mean, if you have a problem with voiceover, go watch Goodfellas and then tell me what the problem with voiceover is.
Right, or Taxi Driver.
Yeah, a Taxi Driver, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I can't really think of a movie in which I have a problem with the voiceover. So, I know it's that famous. Is it in, what's that Charlie Kaufman movie? Is it in Adaptation, where he goes to that screenwriter's guy lecture and he says about voiceover? I don't understand what that guy's talking about, because I know he's based on a real guy as well, but he clearly doesn't have a clue about what makes a good film. But I know, I'm sure people have picked that up having seen that film and said things, but whoever has said things, they're wrong. So we've got Heir. We want people to go over and donate to that. You said you've got some props and stuff that you're giving away. And after this, then, when Heir is financed, as I'm sure it will be, and you make Heir, I imagine you'll be taking that round festivals and things, but also focusing on Worm, the feature, which you were talking, I think Zach was talking about last time he was on the show.
Yep. That's the goal. I mean, what actually happened is when we were done with Familiar, we thought, okay, I guess it's time to try to do a feature, and we started going to take meetings and talking to people about getting a feature going, and that all of those things are still happening. The script is finished, but I came up with this idea for a short that I really felt encapsulated everything I wanted to do as a final short. I think that's the only reason why Heir is getting made, and I think that's one thing anybody who appreciates what we do needs to understand. I feel like this short is going to be so good, it's the reason why we're not doing our feature yet, because I think this needs to happen first. I think people need to see that we're capable of this before we do the feature. And so that's kind of why we sort of stopped. We want to do this short. We want to try to utilize Kickstarter and then go do the feature, because I feel like this is some unresolved business that we want to take care of. But when that's done, yes, it's Worm. The script is written. It's another day in the life of Jeffrey Dodd, the teacher from Worm, and it's everything Worm is, but on a grander scale. The stakes are much larger, and I mean, it's just, it's a feature-length version of that short and everything that comes with it, and that much more. I'm really proud of the script. I think that if we get the chance to make it, it's going to upset a lot of people. It's going to make a lot of people think. It's going to make a lot of people laugh. I mean, it's just like I find Worm darkly humorous. The feature goes for the same thing. It tries to horrify you while making you laugh. But again, like all of our films, it's about something. Worm is about something. Worm is about the feeling, the fear of failure, about the fear of compromise, and that's the film. The feature is really going to explore, because we're going to have the running time. We're going to get to explore who this character is, how he arrived at this point, and kind of point into the future where he's heading. And that's something that we didn't quite get to in the short. We just sort of introduced you to this character and let you think about the ramifications of somebody like him existing in the world. This, you actually get to see that somebody like this can exist, and then you have to stick around with them for another hour, and then that's when things start getting really weird and spooky.
Yeah, we wish you all the very best. We really do, and we hope to be reviewing the feature in the next 2 years or 3 years or whenever it is.
We hope so too.
Yeah, and we can't wait to see Heir, and we think the idea of putting together the 3 movies in a DVD and giving them away for people who donate to Heir, I think that's a great idea as well. So I can't wait to do that. And just wish you all the very best. And
thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, stay in touch. And thanks ever so much for coming on the show again.
Yeah, I just want to again encourage everyone to head over to Kickstarter and search Fatal Pictures Heir, search Heir, Fatal Pictures, Zach Green, Richard Powell. I'm sure you'll find Heir will pop up. I've searched many different things, so I know you can search for the film by entering in certain keywords. But I definitely encourage everyone to head over to Kickstarter. At least look at the campaign. I'm not asking you to donate if you can't. Well, I will ask you to donate if you can. But
no, we're demanding that all the listeners donate.
But yeah, all I do, I just ask you at least go over to the campaign, check it out, look at the talent and the skill that we have attached, and you should definitely feel confident knowing your money is going to support a proper independent movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll urge people to do the same. Go over to Kickstarter. I'll put the link up on the page. Anyway, guys, thanks ever so much. And
thank you so much, John. I really, really appreciate you having us on.
Hey, no worries. Great. Anytime, guys, and best of luck, and speak soon, eh?
Thanks definitely, man.
Well, that was fantastic, wasn't it? And now, as if that wasn't enough, the Diner is incredibly honoured and incredibly happy and incredibly proud to welcome onto the show none other than Hollywood directing legend Peter Hyams. Hi, Peter. This is John Cross from the After Movie Diner. How are you doing this afternoon?
Okay, and you?
Oh, very good, sir. Very good. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today.
It's no problem.
We recently saw Enemies Closer, and I have to say we were big fans of the film, really enjoyed it. So,
thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
That was excellent, and it's what spurred me on to contact you about talking about the film today as we're covering it on the show. But I wanted to start just asking, you're a musician, a painter, a news anchor, a writer, a producer, cinematographer, and a film director. Was there sort of one thing that unites them that drives you creatively?
Well, I think film is the amalgam of almost all of that. Film is certainly writing. Film is certainly music. Film is certainly painting and design and photography. I think it's the one medium that basically involves everything that I care about.
Yeah. And was that one of the reasons why after such a very beginning you kind of gravitated towards movie making?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even call me a journalist. What I did for 7 years with CBS was I wanted to make documentary film. That's what I wanted to make. And I didn't wind up making documentary film because they felt that a young guy with a fairly symmetrical looking face and put him on television, and a lot of post-menopausal housewives' hearts would start fluttering, and that's what they cared about. And after a while, I became much more interested in putting two sentences together that would move people and taking a photograph that was good-looking rather than accurate. I don't think a camera is a recording device. I think a camera is a number 2 soft pencil with a sketch pad. So I was more interested in trying to make something dramatic and documentary filmmaking and the skill of documentary filmmaking, and it's a great skill which I do not possess, is the ability to follow an event. And film directing is the ability to make an event happen for you the way you want it to happen.
Yeah, indeed. No, and it was interesting you were saying that about documentary filmmaking, because obviously you've become known since directing 2010 in 1984 as one of the few, if not the only director that I can think of who also does the cinematography on your own films, which is not always...
Well, Steven Soderbergh.
Right.
He actually refers to he and I as a committee of two.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's no coincidence that every time David Fincher makes a movie, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it has a very specific style.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's working for him. And I think Ridley Scott falls in the same category. Stanley Kubrick was a photographer. He was a still photographer. They wouldn't let him in the union.
Right. No, I know. No, yeah, I'm aware. It's just unusual to find, I guess, both things on a director's resume, and someone who's done it sort of as frequently as you. And I know you had issues sort of getting into one of the unions or guilds or something.
Yeah. I had. They did not want me in the guild.
Yeah.
The cameraman, and it became a bit acrimonious, and then was finally settled.
But how did that begin, and what was the draw of doing that? Was it still that idea of...
Because it's what I do. I studied photography from the time I was really young.
Yeah.
I studied it classically. I studied monorail photography. I studied processing film. I studied Scheimpflug techniques. I really studied it. I really knew it. So I just wanted to make film, and I wanted to shoot my films, and they said, no, you can't. You have to be in the union. And I went, well, I'll join the union. And they said, well, you have to start at the bottom. You have to start as a loader. I said, so the hyphenate would be writer, director, loader? I don't think that'll work too well.
Right.
So it went on for a few years, and then it got a bit nasty. And then finally in 1983, they accepted me in the union.
Nice.
However, there's an honorary society called the ASC, and about 15 years ago, 17 years ago, Connie Hall, who I used to talk with a lot, said, how come you're not in the ASC? I said, Connie, they hate me. He said, well, you should be in the ASC. If Haskell Wexler and I sign your application, will you join the ASC? I said, sure, I'd be proud. And so they did, and I was requested to come down on a Saturday morning and interview them at their ASC clubhouse, which I did. And about 48 hours later, I got a registered letter that said, you've been rejected, which I've framed and have above my desk right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. But, it would have been nice to have been accepted, but fantastic that you could take it with some level of humor. So you directed and photographed your most recent film, Enemies Closer, the film that we're covering tonight. How did that film come about in the beginning?
The producer sent it to me, and his producer, who I've worked with before, his name is Moshe Dimant, and I worked with him before, and I enjoyed working with him before. I read the script. In the script, Jean Claude Van Damme was written as the hero, as the part that Tom Scott played. And the picture was going to be made for absolutely no money on a really, really short schedule. And that, making it on a very, very short schedule for no money, seemed like a great challenge. That was appealing to me. I wanted to prove that I could, because there's nothing more difficult to photograph than night exteriors, especially night in the woods and night on the water.
Yeah.
And to make that look good and to do it under a very rushed schedule, plus all the kind of physicality that it had, I went, that's interesting. I said, I'll do it if Jean-Claude plays the bad guy. And I want to fashion the bad guy into a very flamboyant lunatic.
Yeah.
And Jean-Claude had a very positive experience with me before, so he bought onto it. He trusted me, and then I have to say, when Jean-Claude signs on all the way, and he threw himself into it and made him he said, describe the man to me. I said, it's half Robin Williams, half Hannibal Lecter. It's a person with no curves in their behavior. It's all 90 degrees. They smile and they're sweet, and then they stick a knife in your belly. At the same time.
Yeah.
And that struck me as quite lethal and a chance for him to really make a splash.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic in the film, absolutely wonderful. And obviously he had got quite a few like critical mentions from Expendables 2 doing the villain in that movie. And I wondered if that was still in his mind, because it was obviously something that he shot soon after, right?
Actually, it was a negative for him. He said, "I just played a villain." I said, "You haven't played a villain like this."
No, he's great in the. It was every
because
time he was on screen, it was watchable.
The thing that people really don't know about Jean Claude, he's actually funny.
Yeah,
he has a very, very good sense of humor, and he can be very funny.
Yeah, well, he did. I mean, the film that he did, JCVD, has some great humor in it, and then and then he did I think there was like a reality show or something which sort of showed a lighter side of him. I mean, I've always liked his stuff, but glad we're talking about him, because it was going to bring me on to my next question, which is obviously you've worked with him 3 times as a director and once also as a cinematographer on your son's film, Universal Soldier. What's the relationship with him like now, and how has it changed from sort of the bigger budget days of things like Sudden Death and Time Cop?
Well, I don't think the relationship has changed. I think, I like him. And I think he likes me, and I know he trusts me, and I know he feels that he's done well by me. So it's we like each other. It's no more complicated than that.
Right, no, of course. And you've directed. Well, first of all, let's what are your memories of filming sort of Sudden Death and Time Cop? Are there any stories from sort of the height of the action boom as it was in the sort of 90s?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not very good at anecdotes. It's just the difference clearly was in Time Cop you could shoot sequences in less than half a day.
Right.
And in this one, most of these action sequences took up half a day.
Yeah.
So you just had to plan it very, very, very carefully and choreograph it very carefully and rehearse it very carefully before you shot.
And was there a sense, though, in the 90s? I mean, a lot of the films you've done are sort of either action or drama or thriller-based. Was there a sense of there being a action boom back then? Obviously, you had people like Schwarzenegger and people like that working as well at the same time.
I don't know if there's a sense of an action boom more then than now. And when you think of, the difference really, I think, is now the kind of big action films tend to be comic books or graphic novels or superheroes and stuff like that. Because,
right.
My God, think how elaborate those films are.
No, of course. No, it's just obviously I think there's talk recently, obviously, with the Expendables movies and people like Jean Claude and stuff coming out and doing more movies again, that there was a heyday when they were all sort of performing and at their height, and whether there was a certain feeling at the time or whether it was just business as usual and movies to be made.
I'm not qualified to say whether it was business as usual or not, except I think when it came to people like Schwarzenegger and Van Damme, I think most of their work was not as eclectic as people like Matt Damon and Christian Bale, who do Dark Knight and the Bourne films, and then do all the other films that Christian Bale and Matt Damon does.
Right. So they were more just stuck to one genre.
Yeah, I think they were. Or even the fact maybe that they were fairly heavily accented had something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. And obviously you've worked with other big names like Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, people like that. Is there something that kind of unifies these guys as leading men? And do you work with them the same, or were there sort of different challenges with each one?
Well, everybody's an individual. The one quality that Harrison Ford and Sean Connery and Gene Hackman and Jean Claude Van Damme, and I did 2 films with Michael Douglas. The one quality that they all have is that they're movie stars, and what makes them movie stars you don't know, except they just are.
Right.
And when you are sitting in an editing room and you have a scene and there's a part of the scene that's kind of boring you or it's not as good as you want it to be, you say, cut to the close-up. And when the guy's a movie star and you cut to the close-up, something's going on in their face. That's really interesting. And that's what makes them stars.
And it was interesting you were saying about In Enemies Closer that one of the things that drew you to it was the challenge of the nighttime shooting, how to light it, the woodland setting, and so on. In fact, it's something that we picked up on when we were reviewing the movie after we saw it, that we wondered if that was the impetus behind you getting involved in the film. What were some of the challenges there, and are there any shots or any sort of scenes in the film that you're particularly proud of that you thought, yes, I pulled off what I wanted to?
I could not name shots that I'm proud of. Because I don't think there's a shot in the movie that I couldn't do better, and I don't think there's a shot I've ever made that I couldn't do better. I did want to prove to myself, and I frankly wanted to prove it to other people, that I could make a physically elaborate film for spit and work on a very compressed schedule. I wanted to show that I could do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it really pulls off, and especially the bonfire sequence when he lights the bonfire by the lake. It was, there's a long shot there that was lit beautifully, and then you have that complex fight scene in the trees with where there's a lot of action in very, very minimal lighting, and there wasn't a moment where you didn't sort of understand what was going on and the acrobatics of it. So no, I mean we were very
thank
impressed.
you. I mean, I'm in love with shape, and I'm in love with silhouette, and it's the way I draw, and it's the way I've always photographed. I think people can act volumes with their body, with their shape. One of the great reactions in the history of film is Myrna Loy in The Best Years of Our Lives, and there's a reaction when her husband comes home from war and it's on her back, and it's just it makes you weep. It's so wonderful. Actors, directing actors is basically, well, an enormous amount of it is casting, and then the actual shooting of it is directing actors is creating a place where actors feel safe, and when they feel safe, they'll feel brave, and when they feel brave, they'll take chances. So the object is to have actors take chances. You don't tell Gene Hackman, you don't tell Michael Douglas how to act.
Right.
And Michael Douglas doesn't. Sean Connery doesn't show up at 7:00 in the morning and says, "Where do I stand, boss?" I mean, that's not who they are. They are involved in the film. They're involved in the text. They're involved in everything, and what you want to do is have them trust you, and what you want to have them trust is that you will never let them look foolish. And once an actor knows you won't let them look foolish, they'll take chances.
Yeah.
As I have said, my fairly tired bromide is that the saddest days I ever have shooting a film are those days where I stagger back to my hotel room or my house having shot what I expected to shoot.
Right. You're always looking for that thing that takes it off into either a different direction or is a bit magical, or
you want the accidents. And the more talented people are, the more they will give you accidents.
Yeah, no, definitely. So one of my cohorts who I'm talking this week's show about Enemies Closer is a big fan of the Relic. Can you just quickly talk for him just how that came about and any stories or memories, if you have, of that film?
Well, a script had been offered to me, and I read it, and it was originally written for the Museum of Natural History in New York.
Yeah.
And I literally grew up across the street from the Museum of Natural History. So in a sense, somebody gave me a script that said, fade in your block.
Right.
Which immediately kind of snapped me to attention. And then B, it was a genre I hadn't done, and I just wanted to see if there was a way to do that kind of a genre and do it with some style and do it in a manner that was convincing. And I loved the world of the museum. I loved that world because it's a place where I'd spent a great deal of my life. And at the very last second, the Museum of Natural History said no. And the Field Museum in Chicago said yes, so we shot it in Chicago.
But I imagine they're great buildings to light with all the stuff that's in them. They're great
tremendous stuff to light. And we also did a lot of building ourselves. And it was a lot of fun to try to make a film that would scare people.
Yeah. And you also, in sort of a similar vein, you worked on, I'm a huge fan, actually, of the very underrated sort of End of Days. Was it a conscious effort to give Schwarzenegger a sort of more dramatic role in that film? Was it something you worked on together, or was that just in the script? And
It was mostly in the script. Arnold had worked on the script before I was involved with it.
Right, okay.
He had been away from film for a couple of years because of his heart operation, and this was going to be his first time back. So there was a kind of an event quality to it all, and Arnold wanted to go all out. He just did, and to his credit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's one of his great performances, and actually, since he's come back from having been the governor, he's putting out there some really great performances that have sort of led on from those later films of his in the end of the 90s and the beginning of the millennium. And just last couple of questions then. One film I wanted to ask about was, you mentioned Stanley Kubrick earlier. Did you feel a big pressure sort of directing the follow-up to 2001, 2010, or how did that come about?
Did I feel a bit pressured?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's got to be a big challenge.
I felt scared shit. I felt total, utter panic.
Right.
I would only do it under three conditions. The first condition was that Stanley Kubrick had to sign off on me directing it. And the second was that I come from a blacklisted family. And in Arthur Clarke's book, there was total cooperation between the Soviet Union and the United States, and I wanted to make a movie about what happens if they don't cooperate and it becomes a crisis. So the second was that Arthur Clarke had to sign off on that. And the third thing was that I had to figure out a way where I could make a film that was so unlike 2001 without being disrespectful, except I wanted to make it so I couldn't be compared to Stanley Kubrick, because there's no, it's like being compared to Shaquille O'Neal in terms of height.
Right.
I can't be compared to Stanley Kubrick anyway, except unfavorably. So I just wanted to make a film that was so different that it wouldn't be. So I went through the three processes. I went through the process of Stanley Kubrick approving me, and then Arthur, voluminous discussions with Arthur, and I fed him the script as I was writing it, and the third was the making of it.
Right. No, I mean, I can only imagine. It must have been a big challenge. But no, you haven't.
Well, one of the things that the chairman of MGM, on the weekend before I started shooting, when I was literally just kind of hoping that somebody with talent was going to call up MGM and say I'll do it, so they'd fire me and let them do it. The chairman of MGM was a wonderful guy. Sent me a bound edition of the reviews for 2001, and a lot of people who are involved in film criticism have short memories, and some of the memories are a bit selective, and the reviews were fairly scathing, from surprising places, including by people who later, refer to it as the masterpiece. So I just thought it was a very sweet gesture on his part.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, that's got to help. And there's sort of countless stories of classics now that are considered classics now that were panned on release or didn't make any money on release or whatever it was.
Well, Paths of Glory was released on the second part of a double bill.
Yeah. And that's I mean, that's just an epically wonderful movie. It's just a beautifully stunning
movie. And I don't know if you know the story, except somebody changed the title and sent the script of Casablanca around to the studios, and it got covered.
Right.
It got coverage. It's not all of it good.
No. Is there one person or one set of group of people or one group of films or something that is your influence, or do you find your influences from art, from music, from all over the place?
My influence in photography was Caravaggio and Rembrandt and Hopper, and my influence in writing is almost every writer in the world, because almost all of them are better than I am. And my influence in film, like anybody who studies music, like anybody who studies any of the great art disciplines, I watched the great films.
Yeah.
I think it was William Goldman who said, let's face it, we've all read Shakespeare, so we all start out being second rate.
Yeah.
So, my influence is just watching my betters.
Yeah, that's where we all get it from, I guess. And so what's
I
next?
don't have a tough time finding them either.
Oh no, I mean, well, no, I don't mean that about you, sir. No, I mean there are plenty of great filmmakers out there.
I was everything you said. I was just saying how I feel.
And so what's next for you then? Are you doing any more work with Jean Claude?
I don't know specifically whether it's Jean Claude. I'm writing something right now.
Okay.
That I won't talk about.
No, okay. That's fantastic. Thanks ever so much. Was there anything you wanted to tell people about Enemies Closer? Anything you wanted to say about to encourage people to go see it? Or?
Well, I hope obviously I hope they go see it. I hope they order it on demand or go see it. Or I want people to see it because I think they're going to be surprised by the central performance. They're going to be surprised by Jean Claude Van Damme.
And it's bold putting like the villain, in a traditional action movie, it's not always the case, but to put the villain front and center and to trust in Jean Claude's ability to carry that and not have the audience wonder why they're watching a movie where the villain is the central character. It's great. I mean, of course, from Bond movies onwards, the villain has always been something that people want to watch, but and even before then, but still, Jean Claude sort of dances away with the movie quite literally, I think.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does.
So it's fantastic. Well, look, thanks ever so much for giving us your time this afternoon. It's
Thank
really
you for
great.
putting up with me. I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you.
So here we are. We are in the, what's it called?
Theatre Row Diner.
The Theatre Row Diner.
I am eating a sandwich, right? It's a Cajun cooked chicken, ham, Swiss cheese, and chili. Now, when I ordered it, I thought that meant, a splash of chili powder. But this is America, so no, it's a big pile of chili con carne on top of my sandwich, and it's amazing.
And I'm having Eggs Benedict.
And he's having Eggs Benedict. So we're very happy. We're very happy because we've just gone to see Enemies Closer.
Enemies Closer, which starred as its main villain, and let's be fair, the main attraction of this movie, Jean Claude Van Damme.
Jean Claude
as a ginger bewigged, mountie costume wearing, vegan, drug dealing terrorist.
He's basically a ginger-wigged, fake Mountie criminal psychopath.
Vegan. Very important that he's a vegan.
Very important he's vegan.
Because he keeps, throughout the movie, he keeps skipping through the woodland and, picking off fruit off the vine or off the branch.
Picking up caterpillars.
And saying things like, I did not know they grew strawberries here.
Hello,
and,
strawberry.
Sucking it, really.
After a big fight scene, you pick it up, hello, strawberry. Now, this is mental.
How's your day going, okay?
So, are you a military guy?
Yeah, I was a diver. They used to call us frogmen.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Oh, thank God. I started to think nobody was home. I will never leave a fallen comrade behind. That sound familiar?
You won't feel better when it's over.
Nothing gonna stop this thing.
Gentlemen, you need to leave the beach. Now.
What are they?
Military trained, probably mercenaries, working the drug routes.
We have to retrieve 50 pounds of heroin now.
In the next few hours, we're gonna have to work together if we want to survive.
You lost your mind.
We hunt the ranger. We kill the other guy. Let's go. I hate guns. Oh. This guy is kind of cranky.
I'm gonna take the fight to this maniac.
Bring that fire.
We're gonna do this my way.
Why do I doubt that? I'm getting real pissed.
Anyway, why don't you give us a lowdown of the plot, sir, while I tuck
All right, I'll do my usual bang-up job at the summary.
Yeah,
where
right.
I get sidetracked into structure.
Yeah. No, fuck the structure.
Fuck the
Just
structure. Well, there is no structure.
Give us the main. Oh, it's directed by Peter Hyams.
Directed by Peter Hyams.
Long-time collaborator with the Je Serve de.
Right. On such films as Time Cop, which is amazing.
Sudden Death.
And Sudden Death, which I haven't seen, but sounds amazing.
And his son, who did the last two Universal.
And his father too, John Hyams, who did the last two Universal Soldier movies and also Dragon Eyes, all of which had Van Damme.
And Van Damme's son was in this one.
Yes, it was a whole father-son affair.
Who I think is called Christopher.
Christopher Van Damme. Christophe Van Damme. So, the plot is, very basically, a plane goes down on sort of a national park island.
It's meant to be off the coast of Maine. It's meant to be like a Bar Harbor kind of area.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the border, basically-ish, between Canada and America.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah, it's northern Maine. Sorry. Yeah.
Anyway, the plane goes down right at the beginning of the film, and it turns out that the plane has drugs on.
The plane, she does have heroin.
Yeah, heroin
in it.
And
as Van Damme said,
Jean Claude Van Damme and his French-Canadian drug-dealing psychopaths, mercenaries, want to get the drugs back, right? So they go to this island at night, on one night, and the only person there is the park ranger.
Right.
And the park ranger is an ex-Special Forces diver.
Yeah.
And he is at this island because of your usual war-related trauma,
right,
involving leaving a man behind. We discover,
right,
when
also
on the island that very night is the elder brother of the man that the ranger left behind. So the ranger is on the island. The basic plot is the ranger's on the island and has to deal with, initially, the elder brother of the guy he killed, and the elder brother blames the park ranger for his brother's death. And then the French-Canadian psychopaths turn up looking for their drugs, and the elder brother, ex-con, and the clean-cut
park
ranger have to team up.
The ranger
to survive.
I only want the ranger. The other guy can die.
And that's basically it. Like, that's basically the plot. And it is.
You keep your enemies closer.
Yeah. It is pretty admirable. One of the problems I've noticed with the John Hyams films, which is Peter Hyams' son, is they look absolutely terrific. Like the fight scenes, the look of them, the feel of them, the pace, it's all perfect. But they don't have much in the way of story, character, or oomph. And quite often, things will happen that don't really make sense, because that's just kind of where the story needs to go. Whereas what I liked about this one was it was a bit more an old-fashioned, well, this is our setup, and let's just wind it up and watch it go.
Right.
And that's why it works quite well, because it's no twisty-turny business. Like, oh my god, you know what I mean? It's just like these two guys who have to team up against bigger odds, and
there's one twisty-turny, but we saw it coming
as soon as it turned out, we're like, it's a trap. Yeah.
Right.
So that's fine.
No, we didn't see it just coming a mile away. We saw it coming from, like, another state.
Yes, we did. Yeah. We saw it before the movie even started.
Yeah. They were coming over the hill waving two enormous flags.
Yeah.
That signalled, look out, I'm a plot twist.
But I would say that my initial impressions of the movie are that, first of all, I think I don't know off the top of my head the last film Hyams made before this one. But he used to be.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's absolutely lovely.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's delicious. He used to be a go-to director for the films they don't make anymore. Basically, the mid-range. You've got yourself a semi-famous star, pretty solid story, and he'd go and make you a good movie. You know what I mean? He would make a good movie. So we're talking about the guy that made a sequel to 2001, which, when you think about it, takes a lot of balls anyway.
And he was the cinematographer on this, and one of the points to be said about this is it looked great.
Yes, it did, and that's what I was going to say. Actually. My initial impressions of the movie are that watching his son do his thing, because he's been involved in his son's movies as the DOP on his son's movies.
Right.
And I think he started to enjoy how things look,
right,
making them a bit simpler. And I also felt like that the whole movie was that he thought it'd be really fun to make a movie at night on an island. I bet he's always wanted to make a movie like at night. I mean, just at night with just natural light. There's a few lights kind of here and there, but most of it takes place basically in the dark, and not in that like 1970s European. Oh, the trees are black, but the sky's suspiciously blue.
You mean day for night?
Day for night, right? It's proper, night time, and it's interesting. And
he's lighting it with like just the glow from the boats or just the glow from the moon.
Right. And I think he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, the occasional naked flame or
right. It's very, very, it's interesting to look at, and I think he's enjoying.
Oh, there was only, like, I know they were meant to be trekking all over the island, but they were literally, like, they kept coming across the same clearing. It was maybe 3 locations tops.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but the whole thing felt like it could have been shot. They could have gone to this lovely island, because it was clearly a very beautiful place. Fairly minimal crew.
If he's doing the cinematography.
Yeah, if he's doing the DOP, and a fairly minimal cast. I don't know about that in total, like
10 people?
on the
15?
island? Yeah. On the island, maybe like 7 or 8.
Right, but you've got the old dude. Yeah. Van Damme's crew was about 7 men. To begin with. You've got Orlando Jones, who's the brother, the ex-con. You've got the ranger. So that's already like 11 or 12 people. And then you had the girl who showed up trapped with a leg trap. And then you had a couple of like Mutt and Jeff ICE agents who showed up who were like very I don't know how to work a boat. I don't know how to walk through woods without falling over.
There's some like odd tonal shifts.
Right. There was a great shot where the 2 ICE agents who were like working their way through the woods, one of them, who clearly in reality fell over,
they just kept
kept in the film.
Yeah, you're right.
To make them slightly comic.
It was written by. I'm going to choose, given that Jean Claude Van Damme and his son were in it, and Peter Hyams and his son was editing it, then maybe it was written by father and son. Almost certainly they're brothers. It'd be nice if it was a father and son writing team.
I think they were probably brothers.
I think they're probably brothers. And that's all. It's always a good sign, in my opinion, when you see written by, if it's 2 people and there's an ampersand instead of the word and, that means they wrote it together.
Right.
Whenever you see and, it means someone came in
rewrote,
and rewrote it, which isn't always a bad thing. But I always feel like, I don't know, I just feel like a little better taken care of when there's only like one person's written it. Or
what is nice about it is that they are making straight-to-video action movies again. Spurred on by lots of things. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but like spurred on by Luc Besson's success in France of doing stuff like Taken and The Transporter and movies like that. Spurred on as well by like the renaissance of Stallone and Schwarzenegger, I'm kind of desperately trying to have. Spurred on by.
Isn't it After Dark like normally a horror company? I'm wondering whether...
Oh, they branched out into action?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether... Because
I don't know if they're the same guys, maybe.
It was like After Dark Action. It may not
Action
be.
After Dark.
Action After Dark, yeah. I just wondered whether, there's...
and that's the other thing I was going to say. And also there is now, just like there was during the video boom, the new boom is not DVD, the new boom is video on demand.
Right.
And there has now cropped up, especially in Canada where this was undoubtedly filmed, there has now cropped up a bunch of small to mid-level distribution companies again who are pushing out your Van Dammes, your Seagals. You've got some in Canada, some in Eastern Europe. They're like your two big areas for making low-budget movies and getting distributed right now.
But what I liked about this one, and I would say of all the movies we've seen in the cinemas together, this was the one that was definitely the best put together, made the most sense, was consistent. Like the fight scenes were exciting.
Right. I mean, the colony looked fucking good as well.
Yeah, the colony
cinematography was really
but it was
good.
a mess.
The scripting, was totally awful. But I'm saying that the colony looked amazing considering it was
but I'm saying about this one more than any other we've seen. As a movie, start to finish, I felt properly. I was drawn into the story. I gave a shit about the people involved. Van Damme was just like unbelievably entertaining.
He was
to the point of complete lunacy. Everybody thought it was so funny. And
the thing is, and as I was telling you this as we left the theatre, Expendables 2 has some amazing action in it, but the reason why you go back to watch Expendables 2 again and again is Van Damme.
Well, I can believe
and
that.
when Expendables 2 finished, one of the big nods that all the critics gave was like, Van Damme is doing his best acting in years. It was a lot like when JCVD came out. There's a lot of nods about like, oh, he can actually do this stuff, and he's not just like, hey, I'm Crazy Van Damme, right? So the sad thing about Expendables 2 was that it came out, Van Damme got all these notices, and then you looked on his IMDb page, and it was still a slew of these, shot on video, low budget, going nowhere things. Now, whether he had them booked before Expendables 2 or whatever it was, and he contractually had to do them, I don't know. But you really wanted him to kind of get, like Schwarzenegger and Stallone have had, a pop at doing one more Hollywood thing. Now, whether that happens or not, I think probably that ship has sailed. Whether that happens or not, I think he certainly deserves it. But
you'd have to give him the right. You have to give him the right.
Out of the straight-to-video things, and he's had 3 so far. One was called, I think, Alien Uprising or something like that, which was basically Attack the Block, but in a cul-de-sac in England, where he showed up for like 5 minutes as a special trained head of an SAS squad, probably just to run in and out of frame with a gun. I didn't see it, but that's what I'm assuming.
Right.
Then he's done this Welcome to the Jungle thing, which was a comedy with like people like Adam Brody and I forget who else is in it, but like really no one of any consequence, where he basically plays like a park ranger type character, taking this group of people through like a wilderness or a woodland, like one of these like business away wilderness things. So, I mean, seeing his performances, it might be worth watching, actually, just for him being, like, comical ham.
Yeah. But he was having a blast in this one.
Right. This is the 3rd one of those to come out, and it's certainly the one I was most excited to see.
Yeah.
I'm really glad we saw it in the cinema, and if I'm going to suggest it at all, it's for Van Damme. My caveat on the movie, because I genuinely did enjoy it, but my caveat on the movie is that the other actors are piss poor.
I'm not sure.
In the sense that you could really... I couldn't tell whether it was their performances were really bad or whether something happened in the editing. The reason why I'm saying is it felt like a lot of the movie was put together not on set. In other words, not like having these amazing performances captured on camera and you have a million choices once you get into the edit suite. It felt very much like a movie that was put together in editing. It was most obvious when Orlando Jones faced off with your man, the lead guy whose name I didn't remember, in the cabin, in his cabin, once they shut the door and you're aware, oh, this guy's come to kill him. The cuts back and forth between the two, it was almost like, I'm going to put the camera on you, say the line reading this way, and then Orlando Jones would be like, blah, 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 blah. I have come to kill you. Look at me being serious and I'm going to kill you. And then it would like cut back to this guy on the bed who'd clearly been told to, I don't know, be nonchalant about it or something. It was, what I'm saying is, it was jarring some of the dialogue scenes.
Yeah, I suppose
initially,
I could, yeah.
In a way where it looked like the scenes had been put together in editing rather than being, we've captured this performance live. Does that make any sense?
I think in fact, I would say the vibe I got off
To say they're bad actors is wrong. What I mean to say is...
No, I know exactly what you mean.
They possibly couldn't carry a whole scene, and therefore their performances have kind of been created and put together, which once you spot it, like I did, it kind of threw me off when Van Damme wasn't on the screen.
Well, okay.
Also, I'm not sure how strong the dialogue was between Orlando Jones and this guy. I got the point, like Orlando Jones had to be won over, but there was a lot of bits during the thing where it's like, oh, you want to leave another guy behind? Now look who's talking. Like this stuff where I'm like, you don't need to say that. Like a look can say that.
No,
an action can say that.
See,
you don't need to...
No, see, I did... One of the things I liked about it was that...
but overall, I enjoyed it.
One of the things I liked about it was that those moments weren't... those moments didn't come as like natural beats in the movie. Let's say this was like a movie that Hyams would have made like 10, 15 years ago with, Tom Berenger and...
Berenger would have been amazing.
And Sidney Poitier, for example, right?
Yeah, there was a bit of the Defiant ones about it. Sure, there was.
But if he made that movie with those two, first of all, I think he would have had more time. I think what you're talking about is a function of not enough time and not enough money.
Oh, sure.
But I felt like the definite vibe I got off those scenes you're talking about, the acting scenes, and how it's like back and forth put together in the editing suite. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the vibe I got off was low budget film. Like that they had to get the scene and move on, and that was it. And they could go, yeah, that'll do. And it's only when they get it back to the editing suite you're going, we didn't really get it. We've got to put it together from like of 3 or 4 different takes. But I'm saying that's what I got. So it didn't throw me out as much because, as you well know, with horror movies, there comes a point in a low budget horror film where you can either go, I don't buy this at all. This is ridiculous, or all right, I'm going to go with it, even though it's I'm going to go with it, and then and that's what happened to me. And the reason I liked those scenes, like the leaving a guy behind thing, is that they didn't come at the end of a scene that was put in the movie specifically. It's like, look, we've got a problem here. We need to make sure that they're working together and they're going to win each other over. So we've got to get that scene and we've got to make sure that clicks and pops, you know what I mean? And it'd be like, that would be the function of that scene. Whereas in this one, I felt like when it happened, it was in the middle of something where it was in the middle of a point where they were actually leaving. Like they had to leave. Like what was going on, like the action of the film itself around them was demanding that they leave the room.
Right.
And the thing that this guy would say to the other guy while they're leaving the room is, you want to leave him behind because you wanted to kill me for doing that earlier,
right.
kind of a thing. And I felt like what I liked about those moments was they belonged in conversation because I believe that the guy would have said that to him. It didn't have to be a look. A look would have been cinematic. It would have been like, yes, the audience understand here, but there's no reason necessarily... Yeah, no, you can take it, mate. Thanks very much. I would love some. Okay. Yes, thank you very much.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that maybe the strength of the script was the setup, but the weakness of the script was seeing that setup through in dialogue. I think in action and in terms of like driving the plot forward, that was fine, because once you get them all on the island, the objective is, okay, they've got walkie-talkies, we'll have them running around, we'll have some people fight, we'll have some people get killed, we'll have a bit of a Rambo thing where he like rigs up a few booby traps or whatever, and away we go. Like, that's fine. It just wasn't, a lot of the scripting seems to have been done on Van Damme's character, so that he got lots of nice moments where he could grandstand and tell stories about his grandmother serving up his pet goose and all this other stuff.
That was terrific. Yeah.
Which was great. Really funny and really well done by Van Damme. But there was a lot of bits where I was like, you know what, you've crafted this really good character in Van Damme's character, but the old man could have had like these amazing lines to say which he didn't get to say, and like the two guys could have had much better repartee between them.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I'm just saying that the script you could have taken the script and you could have gone, you know what, this doesn't have to be a low budget movie set in Canada, this could be like a great low budget movie set in Canada.
Alright, I wouldn't, you know what, Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. You won me over there with the old man could have been a better character, definitely. It seemed like, why is he here? It was a very strange, there's no reason for him, because putting him on the island was, presumably he's going to serve some function, but he doesn't really at all, other than to have 5 or 10 minutes of screen time.
He's another place.
And I would say that again. If it had been made 10, 15 years ago, that guy who would have been played by Ed Asner.
Sure. Wilford Brimley,
right. Well, no, of course Brimley. What am I even thinking? Of course Brimley.
Well, because Brimley's in Hard Target. He's the one that he shows up where Van Damme shows up with a girl, and Brimley
I'm the guy with the moustache and the tiny glasses.
He rides the horse while shooting
really fat.
Shooting a flaming arrow.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously Brimley. But that I think in that because you've got your script, right, and the script is as written as we saw on the thing.
Right. But I don't think they did much punch up on set.
See, that's the point. I think, let's say, that scene, right? Brimley's filming, and they've got him for like a week. So they've got a week to film just that, 4 or 5 minutes of I don't know, 2 or 3 days. It doesn't really matter. But in the process, he'd go, you know what, we should have something that's a bit like this, and then the screenwriter maybe do something, or they'd like come back and forth with ideas, and in the process in having the time and the money to do it, they would come up with something. So I don't disagree with you that had it been made 10 or 15 years ago with different people, but Van Damme still having a ball, it would have been a more
I'm just saying,
traditional movie. However, I would say, in its defence, that if the purpose of the movie was that the son, John Hyams, said to his dad, look, with not very much money, with not very much time, and with having to take a whole bunch of shortcuts, you can put together a good movie. And I think that they did. I from the moment it began, I really loved the opening shot. I thought it was fucking awesome.
No, it looked like the plot. There's one more negative, and then I want to say that, and then I want to talk about the plus points. The only other negative is that main guy, and I understood about halfway through that the whole purpose of his character was eventually going to be, well, he's resourceful rather than, a martial arts expert or whatever. But having seen a bunch of these, right, and having realised that, what I'm about to say is, if you're going to crowbar in this whole bit that he was like in Afghanistan and he is like a Navy SEAL or whatever he is, a diver or whatever, like he's this shit hot fucking soldier. Not only that, but a leader of men, like he's meant to have been the team leader or whatever of this thing. Any other action movie, sure, he'd get knocked down maybe or whatever, and yeah, he'd also be resourceful, but he'd be able to either hold his own in a fight or ultimately triumph in a fight. And while it was an okay twist that he was a bit of a shit fighter, because he didn't win a fight in the whole movie except through like ingenuity and like having a weapon or having a booby trap or having a whatever. He got beat up by absolutely everybody. What he had was the willingness to continue. And what he exhibited throughout the whole movie was, listen, I don't leave people behind if I don't have to. So it was interesting to have that character, but ultimately, in one of these movies, and I don't care if you're leading guy Statham, you're leading guy Van Damme, or you're leading guy Scott Adkins, or you're leading guys fucking Frank Zagarino. Ultimately, if you're going to make this big thing about him being he's got to win a couple of fights. He's got to be able to do some moves. I don't think this guy was I think he's just an actor. I don't think he's a martial artist or anything like that at all. So clearly that's why they didn't go that route. Maybe they tried in a couple of fights and he was like, I really can't do it. And they were like, okay, well, we'll do it this way. Or maybe the whole intention of the script was we were meant to be like, he's a resourceful one, he's not the fighter. But it's not as satisfying as if he was a Statham or if he was a Scott Adkins, and occasionally he could be like, because all the way through the movie, I'm watching all these fights, I'm like, how on earth is he going to square off against Van Damme? Van Damme is going to pulverize him. Now, even if he won a couple of those fights, you'd still be thinking, but Van Damme is still the stronger guy. It's not like when Statham obliterates a bunch of hillbillies, you think he's just going to dance through this easily. You know there's going to be a point where it's going to be harder for him. Thank you. Just in the same way that even though you know Stallone is ultimately going to triumph, it's going to be a difficult last battle that he has. It's never going to be easy. But so by setting up Van Damme, who everyone comes to the movie with a certain expectation about fighting skills and celebrity and everything else, you've got that in spades. So even if you had the guy triumph over a couple of fucking ponytailed French-Canadian lackeys, you would still have the tension in the final fight that is required to make that exciting.
But again, the problem, although I don't disagree with you that those things, that it wouldn't have made him a stronger character. But what I would ask is to consider the fact that Hyams doesn't make those kind of movies. His son does. Like, his son's chosen to go, well, I think I can make a standalone action film with all of the action film tropes and all of the things that are understood in an action film, because I can make them look incredible, you know, and I can cut out all the dead wood that I don't need.
He also puts a lot of horror in, like the last couple of Universal Soldiers are kind of gory and horrific.
Right. So, I mean, I think he's clearly a man with a lot of influences, right?
Sure.
But he's gone, I think, if I stick to a genre and the tropes of that genre, I can fuck about
sure.
and make it look great. I don't think Hyams does that, and I don't think Hyams makes movies like that. Like take the Relic, for example. Right, in the Relic, there's no big face-off between like the cop and the monster, or even like the woman and the monster to some extent. It becomes like the movie becomes about the pace, I think, more than anything in Hyams movies. Anyway, it's about the pace of it, and everything that happens for a reason, and everything that happens is believable. Like, there's no like, you were my grandfather's whatever all along. I don't know why that would be a thing, but it's about, you sit down and you watch it, and he will take you on a ride, and you will, like, take End of Days, for example.
Yeah, I was just about to say, End of Days is not about Arnie,
you know, and the devil don't face off, which I think is one of the reasons why people are really disappointed by that movie, that Arnie and Gabriel Byrne didn't have like a big, like, but that wasn't the point of the movie, and it would never have worked.
They do in the train sequence. He absolutely destroys Byrne's physical body, but he's never going to be able to fight, you know, the demon.
So that's the point.
Devil.
Again, and I think, although I agree with you, I think,
and I love End of Days
because Hyams doesn't have the same
desire to see.
Right, it's not about. I think his son takes tropes and then and he puts the things that interest him around those tropes, and he uses that as a spine to hang all the things he's interested on, right? Whereas I think his dad is much better at going, I can tell a good story, and even if I don't have the greatest accent in the world, because he's not like worked with like the best, you know, he didn't make 2001, he made 2010, but 2010, it's obviously not 2001, but it's a good movie, you know, and Hyams is like, I feel like when I watch a Peter Hyams film, I'm not going to have my mind blown, and I'm not going to be watching anything that's going to. I'm going to want to watch like again straight away. But the more movies I watch, the more I begin to appreciate the craft of actually being able to make people believe what's happening, keep you interested, take you along for the ride, and at the end you walk out thinking that was an entertaining. Because not everybody can do that. Personally, I feel that the first Universal Soldier film that I saw, directed by his son, although there were amazing bits in it and lots of things to admire, by the end of it I was like, was still stupid, though. Like, Universal soldiers are stupid. They wander around all stiff with the stupid fucking eye, and they look like, low-budget BBC Doctor Who monsters. Do you know what I mean? They just do. And there's nothing you can do to change that. Whereas I believed what was happening on the island. I was totally taken along for the ride. Even the fact that everybody fought in the same way, what I liked was everybody was exactly as good as everybody, except for the two buffoons. Like Van Damme.
No, the leading guy was worse than everybody.
Yeah, he was, but only slightly. He still had moves. Do you know what I mean? He was still pulling. They were doing that thing where they would like put their legs up and grab their necks and pull them over. Like, they all had like almost. There's even the woman had like the same fucking. They all had moves.
Right.
The purpose of those fights was not to determine who was the best.
I didn't look at the end credits, but I wonder if it was just Van Damme.
Oh, I'm sure. Because again, a function of time, I think. They only had Van Damme running, going, show us a couple of moves, and we'll use those and put those in the movie.
No, and
but
the fight
all I'm saying,
sequence
just to finish. My point is that even in the fight sequences, even with things like that weren't quite believable, and the moments of time that weren't quite believable, I was still completely in the story and taken along and more than happy with what I was seeing.
Right.
That's my.
No, there were a couple of sequences in this movie I legitimately have not seen before. There were a couple of gory moments and violent moments that were particularly tasty.
I would just like to say, the Kick Ass Kid, in the cinema. Now there were only 3 other people in the cinema watching with us. But there's a bit where a guy gets pulled off. Like his leg gets pulled off a spike.
No, let me point it. A spike is through his entire lower leg. The fact that character walks later on in the movie is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
The spike was through his entire shin and calf.
So when it happens, when he gets pulled off it, it's a bit of a surprise.
He gets pulled off it, and the spike
and in the middle of the cinema,
down
all you can hear is Crossy going, ooh. Like that. No, it's more like, ooh.
I went, ooh. Ooh. No, I didn't do it like Kenneth Williams just got a knob up his bottom.
It was a little bit Kenneth Williams. It was a bit. Ooh.
No, I didn't do that.
Ooh. That's what you did. You did that. You did that. That was what you did. You went, ooh.
No, I didn't do that.
And then, because there was a brief silence, and then everybody laughed. Well, I did. And you did.
No, I was laughing my head off because I suddenly realised that I was turning into my mum. Because my mum used to watch. Seriously, my mum used to watch James Bond movies, and in James Bond movies when Roger Moore would get punched, he'd go ooh and make that noise.
Yeah.
My mum would make that noise and cover her eyes in a James Bond movie. Some of the least, even for action movies, some of the least violent movies, because they're just cartoon action, she would be watching an old fat Roger Moore fight scene and be going, I don't, like that. That was the noise she would make.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
There's a whole edit together on YouTube of all the times she makes that noise, which is hilarious.
I'd like to see that.
But no, on the plus side, the movie looks great. Looks great. Van Damme in this movie,
he is really quite a sight to behold.
You don't. Every time he's not on camera, you want him on camera.
By the way, as I'm sure everybody listening, there's always rule 1 of the Jean Claude Van Damme movie is: have they come up with a convincing explanation for the French accent? Because when they do,
this is one of the best.
Absolutely. First of all, he's French Canadian. Brilliant. Yeah. That's fine. Only if you'd made him Belgian. I mean, a Belgian street clown.
Right.
But sometimes, he's thinking, you've had to crowbar that one in, haven't you? But this one,
it's the same with Statham, though.
Yeah, good explanation.
It's the same with Statham. They've actually, what's really funny is a bunch of the American movies Statham's been doing recently, where they flat out will just refuse to allow him to do an American accent. Which I'm not 100% sure why. His American accent is no worse than.
What he goes?
It's
with a slight twang.
With a slight twang, but anyway, they've decided it's a bad idea. So every movie that Statham does now, there's 5 minutes in which someone goes, so why is he not American? And they go, Interpol, or whatever it is. He's an exchange student from the CIA, and that's what they do. And everyone's like, right then.
Well, this is better than, I grew up in Hong Kong, but I had a French tutor or whatever.
No. That's the funniest thing in you're talking about is Double Impact.
Double Impact, right.
The funniest thing about that is they grow up either end of the world, one in Hong Kong and one in California.
Both of them have French accents.
And both of them have French accents. The reason being is the one who grew up in Hong Kong was brought up by French nuns working there in a nunnery, and the one in California had a French tutor. Which is...
if that's like a euphemism.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him? He had a French tutor.
Which is hilarious considering everyone else around him. Like, that's never happened in the world. No one's ever had a French tutor who's American and grown up to be like, hang on. They might have grown up to speak French very well, but they've never grown up to sound like you're Belgian.
But then, but one of the other cool things about the movie is that Van Damme speaks in French a lot.
He does, yeah.
Which is very, very cool. But he's having an absolute blast.
The running bit of him in the middle of all this chaos finding tiny berries or grapes or strawberries or whatever on the vine and plucking them daintily and then like sucking them almost obscenely into his mouth.
I can almost envisage Van Damme turning up with his crazy little goes, you know what, Peter? I think it would be funny if I was a vegan. Yeah, fine, run with it.
What I like is that
whatever you want to do, that's fine.
He comes in and he says, do you know that cow fats are 15% of all the methane that is whatever? And then there was this like long, protracted laughing sequence.
Yeah.
I'm like, nothing he said was that funny at all. Now, if they had laughed like that when a diminutive, ginger, mad Belgian guy wearing slippers had wandered into their thing, that would be something. But they didn't laugh like that. They laughed like that at a cow fart joke, which...
Yeah. No, it was... He was having such a good
And when
time.
he said in France, French rather, he thinks I'm the one who needs help, he's wrong.
Oh yeah,
that was
great.
Amazing.
That was really great.
To have a villain's one-liner done in French subtitles was just...
Yeah. He's the one, because he's down to the last guy fighting. Van Damme's fighting like the last guy. And his mate turns up around the corner, and Van Damme says in French, he's the one who needs help. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah. It's really, really good. I guess I need to cut there, right?
Yeah, we don't have to go yet.
No, that's fine. We've got plenty of time.
But no,
I'll have a bit more coffee.
So, really loved Van Damme. Really loved the way it looked.
Yeah, I love the way it looked. I love the way it was paced. I really like that. It didn't hang around.
I liked the violence in it. I liked the Van Damme as mad tree climbing gorilla sequence was amazing.
It really was a proper flashback to like old Hammer horror, like crazy. We need to have a beast, but we can only afford a guy in a suit. But let's do something weird with like what he's doing to make it look a bit beast-like, and that's what Van Damme looks.
Basically, he scales a tree.
Yeah,
like
he looks exactly like an angry monkey,
like a monkey man.
Yeah, like a big ape. He's a big ginger wig.
Because at one point, like we say, our leading guy is resourceful. He's not particularly good at fighting. So while running away with a bag of heroin, he hides up a tree. And Van Damme comes along and goes, oh, you are hiding in trees now, and like is all excited by it. And you think, what's going to happen here? We're going to have like this painful climbing sequence, and all of a sudden Van Damme turns into like Monkey Boy.
There is no shame in defeat.
That was amazing. That was great. And he was like, go to sleep, child. Go to sleep. It was amazing.
I would say this, right? Having watched a fair amount of action films, the ones that I can live with the ones that don't make any sense. You know, I can live with the ones. I can live with the ones that don't make any sense, and I can live with the ones that are just sort of weird. But the worst ones, as far as I'm concerned, are the ones that they hit all the right notes and everything, and they do what they're supposed to do, but they're just boring.
Right.
You know what's coming a mile away.
Sure.
It just and there's no wit, or if it is wit, it's that kind of. It's a crazy last day on my job or whatever. You're going, I've heard every joke you've heard before. Like everything's like just reheated, and they're reheating it because they're going, well, this worked before, so let's just do it again. But this time, this guy's the cop on the edge or whatever, and it's just like, you know, if you do it well, there's a bit of imagination. Fair enough. I've got no problem doing the same thing over and over again at all.
The hard way.
Precisely. No problem with that at all. But if it's boring and not funny and just everything's reheated, including the jokes, that's the worst crime for an action film, as far as I'm concerned. This one made me laugh. Had fight scenes in it. The fight scene where they're like going by the cupboard, and the bloke gets so desperate he starts picking up cans and bottles and hitting the cans and bottles. That was very cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They clearly made the decision early on. He was resourceful rather than being a good fighter. So in that instance, he was like flipping tables over and hiding behind things. And he like picked up books and threw books at him, and then he picked up meat cans and was throwing them at him.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I just felt that there wasn't any point in the movie where I was bored.
No,
you know what I mean, no.
I was just watching our lead guy though and thinking, why him? Like that's what was going.
That would occasionally cross my mind, but on the other hand, I understand why him, because the interesting characters in the movie are Van Damme and the elder brother.
Right.
And the elder, but you can't. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Thanks. You can't have the elder brother. You can't have the standard thing, because it's so obviously Van Damme's movie. You can't have the standard thing of everything's about the guy and the ranger and the ex-con and their relationship and them coming to, and then Van Damme will like turn up in the movie and be a bit hammy with a few lines.
Well, I was worried.
And that's it.
I was worried Van Damme was going to be in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it was. He was in it for even like I would say even like a tiny little bit more than the two.
Right.
So they had no time really to do it, but they had to be, this is what we are and this is what we're doing. Thanks very much.
No, I enjoyed it. No, I enjoyed it. I I thought that when he lit the bonfire, that looked amazing.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. It never bored me.
I love the trees.
There were images that I won't forget.
I like the bit where the guy got a knife in his neck and then like couldn't move because it was like attached to
the sound. I've never heard that before, but they clearly went, let's get the sound that somebody would make if they had a knife in their throat. It was almost like a hacking cough.
Yeah.
Like, you know when people have a really, really bad cough, it sounds like it's coming from deep within their throat. It was like that with bubbles. It was really, really cool. Thank you very much.
And I wasn't the only one. There was a bit earlier on in the movie where the first guy, when the ranger went a bit mental with no, it was when Van Damme was killing the two ICE guys.
Yeah, with the...
He clearly like shoved a big spiky tree branch either into his gut or into his cock. I couldn't work out.
I think he kind of went through the cock and into the guts. That's kind of what I felt.
But there was someone else in the theatre went, ooh, at that point.
Because he had a big sharp stick and he clearly went through the cock and into the guts. And somebody went, ooh,
like that. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Because I think we were all having it. Because we're all guys. Yeah. And I think we all had clearly all guys. We all had the same thought, like, because Van Damme had killed one of them through the neck or something with this branch, so he knew that it could.
And he did it at the angle, and
then he like bent down, and he was kind of getting all. I'm going to lick the tip and make sure it's all ready, and he kind of took a long time to kind of prepare the angle and everything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It wasn't explicit, but it was
you don't see it enter the body or anything. But
yeah, so I would say, all in all, I would give it as I would give a lot of Hyams movies, like a solid B+.
Right.
It didn't.
6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10.
No, I'd give it a 7.
7.
I'd give it a 7. The reason I would give it a 7, maybe a 6.5. A 6.5. I'd give it a 6.5. And the reason being, it's not the greatest film in the world. You know what I mean? Not by a long shot, but it's well put together. It's not boring. There's interesting images in it that would stay with you. In the way that you hope things, you hope things will in a movie. They're not just like, I'm a guy in a row, in a room talking. There's things in it. And he was clearly, Van Damme was clearly having a ball. I think Hyams was clearly having a ball, shooting an entire film at night and trying to make that make sense and be exciting.
Yeah.
And it was funny. And some of it was cool, some of it was gory. Like, it did all the things that action films are supposed to do. Like, it made us go, ooh, with like nasty things. It made us laugh with like a funny villain. It made us go, wow, when they were having like exciting fights. Like, it did all the things it was supposed to do. And it probably cost them like a packet of beans to make. And fair play for them, frankly, because there's a lot of people out there making films for a packet of beans, and a lot of them are just shockingly awful.
Right.
And this one was totally not. It was like the work of a guy, he's a proper, what's the word?
Journeyman?
No. artisan. Is that what I mean? Like he's a guy who's very good at what he does. It may not be like artist is not a word, but he's a guy who's very good at what he does, and he's obviously never going to be Stanley Kubrick. Do you know what I mean? But I think he recognises the value of a good story, and I think that in itself, should be.
Yeah, it's funny, and I almost feel like now that Van Damme has got this sense of fun, I would more, in the same way Schwarzenegger has. I know people are not necessarily going to give him a chance for lots of different reasons at this point, but I have done because I don't really care, and also because I wasn't into Schwarzenegger in the same way as everyone else was growing up, so I'm not tired of it. And when you see him in Expendables 2, Escape Plan, and Last Stand, he's having so much fun. Like, one of the reasons why I like End of Days over other Schwarzenegger movies is he's acting. Now, it may only be like, oh, he's grown some stubble and occasionally he slurs his words, but there's a character there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not.
I've always liked him. I think it's a really nice movie.
And I think that when you give Van Damme and you give Schwarzenegger, people who are, let's be fair, hampered by an accent and hampered by a look and hampered by a certain preconceived notion that comes with them, when you give them something more than just he was a cop who saved a kid, like when you give them something that's modern, and you give them rough edges, or you give them a villainous streak, or you give them a little bit of like cocksure humor or whatever it is, they really, really, really deliver.
Yeah.
And like Schwarzenegger got to do Last Stand and Escape Plan, I would dearly have loved after Expendables 2 for Van Damme to have just got one more slice of the pie, like one more movie where they were like, you know what, we're going to throw 30 mil at Van. We're not going to go throw 100 mil at him. They didn't throw 100 mil at Arnie. They haven't. But they threw 25 or 30 mil. And they said, we're going to make a decent budgeted...
The problem is that, like...
The problem is now is that Schwarzenegger and Stallone solo movies have flopped universally, and Van Damme didn't get on the post-Expendables 2 train quick enough.
Yeah.
Whether he was contracted in, because I'm sure he had like these 5 movies shot in Canada and Bulgaria already planned. Like, I'm sure he couldn't get out of them or whatever. But like, I'm just saying, and it's like I feel about the Expendables or the B-movie Expendables or any of the like offshoots that they want to do, should have done them in 2010. Like, the moment the first movie came out and was a hit, you should have gone, right, okay, all these guys we need to get back into like 25, 30 mil movies. Let's do it now. You know what I mean? Because Stallone is already going around on this tour now, doing like his one-man show in London and stuff, where it's very annoying that he's having to do this, but he's almost like having to apologize for the fact that he like tried to do action again. And he's now talking about, well, I want to do something that's a bit more like Copland, which is great, because I'd love to see him do something like that again. I'm not knocking it, but he's saying, I want to do stuff now that's a bit more character piece, and I think apart from the Expendables movies, you're probably not going to see me do the solo action stuff again, and blah, 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 blah. Which is, I think, a complete shame, but that's just me. And there's this sort of idea that Renaissance didn't work, or that didn't come about, and I find that really sad, because I think there's so much potential there for...
I think there is, but I think I think if you're going to be truthful about it, and I think they would be more than happy to accept the fact that those days are gone, and it's not just the days of...
No, they went out fighting. It's great.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, the problem is that the Expendables harks back to something, but in a way that's it. The hark back is all.
No,
you know what I mean.
I don't agree. I think
no. I know you don't agree. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, I think the reason those films weren't hits is
they were hits. Stallone's solo projects have not been hits.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Expendables were huge.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. The reason those solo films weren't hits, but Expendables were, is that the idea of the hark back that the Expendables is packaging is appealing, but not to the point where people actually want to see the hark back films. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't mind seeing something that's pointing to them, but they don't actually want to go, over there and see them. For whatever reason, I'm with you. I think if it's a well put together action film, I'm all for it. But for whatever reason, that's just not what people want.
Well, it's all fantasy. In fact, someone asked me the other day on a show, what movies are you not looking forward to do in 2014? And I said, honestly, all the religious ones that are coming out. You've got Noah, you've got Son of God, you've got they're doing a Moses movie and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Christian Bale is doing a fucking Moses movie. Fucking Russell Crowe is going to be Noah.
Moses.
But I figured it out. What it is big CGI fantasy movies are what's big. I mean, otherwise, explain why dross like The Immortals gets made or whatever. What they've tried to do is they've tried to dredge everybody's mythology into big CGI movies these days. So we've had The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and that mythology, that kind, and C.S. Lewis, all those movies. We've had all those. We've had like the English fairy tales. We've had Hansel and Gretel. We've had the Brothers Grimm. Hang on. And then we've had all the Greek and Roman ones, both on TV with Spartacus and whatever, but also in 300 and The Immortals and these kind of movies. And I don't think it's suddenly like Hollywood's like, we should all praise Jesus. I think Hollywood's like, what other kind of big budget fantasy movies can we do? Oh yeah, Noah has a big budget.
Well, that's true, although I would suggest actually that generally...
And Moses has lots of like saving slaves.
Generally speaking, everything is, especially Hollywood, is like 3-4 years behind. Like, I think one of the reasons that The Expendables happened and then 3 or 4 years, as you're saying, maybe a bit too late, Stallone is forced to start writing standard movies. That's how long things take. Like, the reason that all the religious people have is that Hollywood went, Passion of the Christ made how much? And it cost nothing, and it made a shitload of money. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, they've been developing these films ever since. All of these films, they will have been passed through like 3 or 4 different directors and 5 or 6 different drafts. All of them, the Moses one, all of it. But they've been in development ever since.
Do you know the conflict that they've come up with? No. The conflict they've come up is that Ray Winston leads a band of like marauding hairy men who show up and like, I want to get on your boat. And like Noah's like, nah, you won't get on my boat. And Ray Winston's like, I'll get on the boat. He's like, the boat is for animals only. Like that's the conflict in Noah. Why do I care?
That's a bit stupid.
Seriously, that's in the trailer.
Is Ray happy with like appearing in the Bible as like previously?
I mean, apparently, maybe all these guys are like way more religious.
Not appearing in this film.
He literally shows up as Ray Winston, the hairy Englishman, with a bunch of like smock-wearing. Because it's meant to be like, I always thought like Noah was in like the Holy Land and stuff, but it looks like it's in, some woodland in England. Yeah, it looks like, what was that? They did, it wasn't Rome, but when...
Spartacus?
No, it wasn't a TV series, but they did a movie that was like Rome, but filmed, I think it was just called Barbarian, or The Barbarians, or something like that. And it was filmed, it was like a fairly low budget thing. It may even be in Neil Marshall, I don't know.
Oh, I know one. They go north of the... But it's about the lost thingy.
It's a bunch of people in a wood in England, dressed in Roman garb, fighting each other. Yeah. That's what Noah looks like with a big CGI boat.
Yeah, and it does look a bit strange. I would say that we should go because they're actually shutting up shop. They're bringing in the menu.
It's a 24-hour donor, I thought.
It doesn't look like it.
That's what it says.
Okay. Because all the chairs are...
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, look, this has been a lovely diner.
It's been a super diner.
And it was a great movie. And thanks very much for coming on the show, sir.
It was my pleasure, as always. I had a really, really grand time. And I would say, so far, this, I think, has been the best movie that I've seen in our diner.
On our little B-movie, Jawn.
Yes. Long may they continue.
I agree. I would say it's the best, or one of the best. I mean, I seriously liked The Colony.
I had problems with The Colony. But I know we've talked about that. But I had problems with The Colony. I didn't have problems. I really didn't have any problems with this film.
Nice. I like that very much.
Good night.
Well, thank you for joining me again this week, Jim, in the diner.
Thanks, man.
light don't work and the wings won't talk. A couple rolling down a hill, yeah. They cast a shadow, but we don't know if they always will. And them and I are waiting, the alarm will ring. I wanna shut down everything. And them and I wrapped fish at the bottom of a bag. How do I tell them that everything's a drag? Oh. A little strumming on the bark, the rusted engine's teeth carving names till dark. And Canada geese like the view, oh. They cast a shadow, but we don't know if they always do. And them and I shouting in an empty room, something happens sometime soon. And them and I, old head rolling round in the air. How do I tell them that I really just don't care? The street signs cutting through the cold. They keep on walking till it gets old. I may be lost, but unlike you, I'm not sold on anything at all. A little climbing on the gate, matchstick model building, please don't make me wait. Crestfallen cat and one-eyed crow, they cast a shadow and they're never gonna let it go. And them and I are waiting for the early train. Man, it looks like snow again. And them and I, up to my knees in all that I should. How do I tell them that I'm really just no good? No good. Old head rolling round in the air. So how do I tell them that I really just don't care? Oh, wrapped fish at the bottom of the bag. But how do I tell them that everything's a drag? Yeah, up to my knees in all that I should. How do I tell them that I'm really just no good?
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr.Action and the Kick Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?